Imagine waking up and realizing that a private text thread you thought belonged to your inner circle is no longer private. The court calendar just got tighter. Another lawsuit tied to the same Hollywood mess is moving forward, and the internet has decided that silence itself is evidence. That is the energy around Blake Lively and Taylor Swift right now. Not because a court has said they're panicking. It hasn't. But because the latest legal moves have reopened the question of what else could still come out. And in a case already powered by leaked messages, that possibility alone is enough to send social media into overdrive. So here's the clean factual recap right up front. This week, Judge Louis Lyman granted Justin Baldoni's side a short extension on pretrial deadlines after his team argued Blake Lively's side had turned over a massive amount of trial material too close to upcoming filings. The judge set an April 2nd status conference, and the main trial is still set for May 18th. At nearly the same time, in a related case, the judge allowed Wayfarer's defamation suit against Baldoni's former publicist Stephanie Jones to continue. That matters, because discovery in that case could pull more communications into the spotlight. And all of this lands after January's unsealed filings already made several Blake Lively and Taylor Swift messages public. That part is confirmed. The idea that Blake or Taylor are secretly spiraling. That's a leap the internet is making, not something established in court. That distinction matters. Because once you strip away the thumbnails and all-caps captions, the newest development is less bombshell text drop confirmed, and more, the legal machinery is still grinding, and that creates the possibility of more disclosures. In celebrity cases, that difference gets lost instantly. Potential becomes certainty. Speculation becomes headline language. And suddenly more text could surface, mutates into their panicking. What makes this especially combustible is that this case already has a history of private messages becoming public theater. In January, AP and CNN both reported on unsealed communications that included Taylor Swift's messages with Blake Lively. Those texts showed Swift criticizing Baldoni, reacting to the public fallout, and at one point telling Lively she had helped so many people. They also showed a more personal side of the friendship, including Swift telling Lively she missed her dark, normal-speaking friend. Those are not rumors. Those were publicly reported from unsealed filings, and once the public sees one set of messages, the expectation changes. It's no longer, will anything private come out? It becomes, what's next? That is where the latest court developments hit differently. The continuation of a related defamation suit and the ongoing discovery disputes don't prove more Taylor texts are about to drop. But they do keep the environment alive where more communications, from more people, could become relevant, requested, fought over, or exposed. That possibility is enough to dominate the conversation even before anything new is actually released. You can see why clips and commentary about this are spreading so fast. The raw material is perfect for virality. Big celebrity names, friendship politics, lawsuit language, words like discovery, unsealed, and defamation. And because Taylor Swift is involved, even indirectly, the scale changes overnight. A standard Hollywood legal story becomes fandom warfare. People are not just reacting as observers. They're reacting as stakeholders in the reputations of the people involved. That's also why the social media debate has split into two very different conversations. One conversation is about the actual case, what was filed, what the judge ruled, what may or may not go to trial, and what conduct is legally relevant. The other conversation is more emotional and symbolic. That side asks, what does it mean that Taylor's private messages ended up in court? What does it say about trust, about loyalty, about whether celebrity friendships are really private when a legal crisis hits? Those are not legal questions, but they're driving a huge share of public interest. And honestly, this is where influencer culture and celebrity culture now merge into one thing. Private communication isn't just private communication anymore. It's future content. It's potential evidence. It's narrative ammunition. It's fandom fuel. A text between friends can become a legal exhibit, a TikTok slideshow, a YouTube breakdown, and a morality test all in the same week. The case is escalated partly because both sides appear committed to total narrative control. Reuters reported back in January that Baldoni's side argued Lively's complaint was built on petty slights, while Lively's team argued that the totality of conduct created a hostile environment in retaliation. The judge himself pushed back on reducing the case to isolated minor incidents, noting that a lot of small things can add up to something bigger. That exchange captured the core conflict perfectly. Each side wants the public and the court to interpret the same pile of facts in a completely different way, and because the public version of this fight has been so intense, every new filing now gets treated like an episode drop. NBC reported after the failed settlement conference that both Lively's and Baldoni's public sentiment had cratered, citing analytics that showed steep declines. That is one of the most revealing details in the entire saga. This isn't just about legal exposure anymore. It's about reputational collapse in real time that, to me, is why the panic framing keeps gaining traction even without confirmed evidence of panic. People can sense the reputational stakes. Blake Lively is not some niche internet figure who can disappear for a month and reset. She's a major star with business ventures, film projects, and a very curated public image. Taylor Swift is even bigger, and her brand is built not just on fame but on intense audience identification. Her fans feel like they know her voice. So when private texts surface, it doesn't feel like a celebrity gossip item. It feels like unauthorized access to character. That is incredibly hard to manage, because even if the texts don't create legal liability for Taylor, they can still create image tension. Supportive texts to a friend look different once they're pulled out of a private emotional context and dropped into a legal narrative that millions of strangers are now dissecting line by line. The court may treat those messages as pieces of evidence or context. The internet treats them as personality reveals. And then there's the other big factor here. The public has already watched this case expand far beyond the original dispute. AP reported that names like Gigi Hadid, Hugh Jackman, Emily Blunt, America Ferrera, and others were identified as people who might have relevant knowledge. The celebrity orbit around this case has made it feel less like one workplace dispute and more like a map of Hollywood relationships under stress. Once a case starts pulling in that many high-profile names, people naturally assume there is more behind the curtain. But again, this is where discipline matters. Confirmed detail, related litigation is moving forward, trial prep is still active, and discovery remains a pressure point. Confirmed detail, Taylor Swift's prior texts with Blake Lively were already unsealed months ago. Confirmed detail, a judge has kept the main case on track for trial, with more immediate scheduling ahead. Unconfirmed leap, that there is definitely a fresh Taylor text dump coming next, or that either woman is privately falling apart. Those are theories, not established facts. People page 6. What's fascinating is how the story reveals the new rules of celebrity crisis. In the old model, stars guarded the public interview, the red carpet, the magazine profile. In the new model, the real danger is the private thread, the side conversation, the message you send when you think you're talking to one person, not to a future jury pool plus the internet. That changes behavior. It changes friendships. And it definitely changes the risk calculation for every celebrity who gets pulled near a lawsuit without actually being a party to it. Taylor Swift's role here is especially instructive because it shows how star power can be both shield and liability. Her name brings attention, sympathy from supporters, backlash from critics, and massive amplification of whatever document she's attached to. If your legal dispute starts absorbing Taylor Swift texts, it stops being contained. It becomes global pop culture news instantly. CNN even described the latest round of the case as one that had effectively introduced a new star into the legal drama. That's exactly what happened, so where does that leave Blake Lively? In a brutal spot, frankly. If she says nothing, silence gets interpreted as strategic. If she pushes back, critics call it damage control. If more communications surface, every relationship around her becomes part of the content economy. And Baldoni's side has its own pressure problem too, because the longer this goes, the more every filing becomes a referendum on his judgment, his workplace conduct, and the tactics used around the film's fallout. Nobody is cruising through this untouched. And that may be the deepest reason this keeps escalating. Both sides are fighting one case in court and another case in public at the exact same time. The legal case asks what can be proven. The public case asks who looks worse. Those are not the same contest, and sometimes winning one can hurt you in the other. Right now, the newest confirmed development does not prove a fresh Blake and Taylor text avalanche is imminent. What it does prove is that this legal battle is still widening, the discovery fights are not over, and the system around it is still capable of dragging more private material into daylight. That's enough to keep the story hot. And maybe that's the real headline here. In celebrity litigation now, you don't need a new leak to create a fresh crisis. Sometimes all you need is a judge saying,